Welcome to part 2 of the video. In the first part we had a look at replacing the sky. In fact, if we come over to the layers panel, bring your cursor over the eye icon of your background layer. Now press Alt or Option. If you press Alt or Option, click on the eye icon, that switches off all the other layers. You can see that's the start image. We put in a new sky. We use the hue saturation to boost the colors, and then levels just to give it a little bit more bite. Now with layers, it always gives you the option to be able to come in and to change any of these. And looking at it, and I always say put the image aside, look at it with fresh eyes, and I think the sky is just a little bit too much. We dropped the opacity, we used the multiply blend mode, we dropped the opacity down to 67%, but I'm going to take it down a little bit further. That area there, I think that looks much better. Right, when you've done any sort of modifications, go to File, drop down to Save, and just click on Save that. That's going to overwrite it. It's going to update it now to that opacity of 56%. Okay, I don't want to continue working on this particular image, but what we're going to do is we're going to go to File, we're going to drop down to Duplicate. Now with Duplicate, it gives us the option to rename it, so I'm going to call this one Swing Ride Effect, and we're going to duplicate merge layers only. So what this is going to do, it's going to duplicate it, there it is, and it's merged all the layers into this one layer. So there's our original. You can close that down. That's now safely out of the way. Using Command 0, Control 0, we're going to go to Fit on Screen. Looking at the image, it looks just a little bit bland in this area, and I had an idea. We're going to fly in a gull. I've got the hand tool selected. Pressing V on the keyboard is going to give me the move tool. We're going to click down, we're going to lift our gull up, and as we lift it up we're going to come over the tab and going to drop it into this area here. That looks pretty good, with the exception he's actually flying out of the picture. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Image, Rotate, dropping down to Flip Layer Horizontal. That's the important one here, is flipping the layer horizontal. That looks better. In fact, let's just double click on it. We're going to call this Gull. Right, see, it's looking a little bit on the dark side. An adjustment layer of levels, and if we just click on this, I'm going to move it in this direction. In other words, we're brightening it up, we're introducing more of the lighter pixels. You can see we're actually brightening up the whole picture. If you drop down to this little icon here, this is going to clip it, so we're now working purely on our gull layer. If I just switch it on and off, you can see the difference that's making. In fact, that looks pretty good, so I'm just going to click on the cross, so we've now accepted that. To apply the effect, because when I was looking at this image, the first thing, I was going to delete it. The more I looked at it, the more I thought, no, I've got a filter in mind, which could work extremely well with this picture. Now to apply the filter, the first thing we need to do is come up, we need to put in a new empty layer. We're going to double click, we're going to call this Effect, and we're going to hold down Alt on the keyboard. We're going to come across to Layer, holding down Alt or Option, dropping down to Merge Visible. This is going to merge all these layers into this one new effects layer. As soon as I click on this, you can release the Alt or the Option key. There it is. All these layers are now safely in our effects layer. The effect will be found under Filter. We're going to drop down to Sketch. We're going to come over to Comic. Now when Comic opens, we can see there it is. Now down the bottom of this panel, we got the zoom in tool, we got the zoom in out tool, we got the hand tool, which is the default. You can pop into 100%. With the hand tool you can move it around, and you can see, yeah, I like what this is doing to the image. You've also got the back to fit on screen. If we take a look at the presets, this is the comic preset. Just notice as well the sliders, they move around as we click on the various ones. For example, grayscale, sunny day, and the old print. So it's worth checking these out. I think with this particular image, comic looks the better of the bunch. We're going to zoom in. Now my favorite way of zooming in is with the hand tool. Just right click and you can then get all these various zoom locations. I'm going to go to 33%. That's just giving us a nice view around this part of the image. Soften 4, dropping it right down. Doesn't seem to do a huge amount. Let's take it back up to 5. Looks a little bit more block there. Let's drop it down to, you can swipe across, you can put in 4. That looks okay. With the shade, if we just drop the shade down, nope, that's not going to work in that direction. Take it up into this direction, and I'm just going to drop it down a little bit more. Just releasing it there. That looks better, doesn't it? Just try that area. Bingo. Like it, not going to touch it anymore. We've got 7.6. Steepness. Now for this one, I'm going to zoom back out to fit in view, or click on this icon here. Out you pop to fit in view, because the steepness affects, and you can see what that's doing to the sky. If we drop it down to this area here, sky looks quite normal. The more we bring it up, the more it starts then to block up into those color ranges. I'm going to take it to, drop it right down into that area, just releasing it. That looks more natural like this. In fact, I'm going to zoom back into the 33% and just move it across like that, back with the steepness. I think we'll leave it like that. That looks pretty good. Right, vibrance. Vibrance is going to increase the colour. A bit too much there. Bringing it back the other way. You can also bring your cursor out. Click on the vibrance. You'll notice you now got a arrow going through your finger, and we're just going to drop it down into there. I like that. I'm not going to touch it anymore. Just moving it down a little bit into this area, because the next one is the outline. This is the thickness. Now the more you bring this up, look what this does. It gives a really nice comic effect. Let's take it right the way up to the maximum. I think that's just a little bit too much. So if we just drop it down to this area here, looks better. Just taking up a little bit further. Great stuff. That'll do nicely. I'm going to click OK to that. That is now going to apply it. There it is, applying the comic filter. It's going to take a little bit of time. This is a full size image. You can see the size is down here. The document size flattened, it is 45.7 megabytes. In layers as we've got now, it is 93.4 megabytes in size. That is why it's taking a little bit long, but it is rushing through. About to be applied. Pop, in it goes. Oh, bit on the blue side. Not going to worry. Let's go to the blend modes. Now with the blend modes, it is worth checking out something like overlay. Don't forget, take a look at the opacity as well. As we drop the opacity down, that looks pretty good. Let's take a look at soft lights. Soft lights, we're going to move the blend mode back up. Trying the blend mode with this. One more. Let's go to luminosity. That looks pretty good, doesn't it? Let's bring the luminosity back up to 100%. Yes, that works a treat. What have I got? I've got the move tool, so I can use command spacebar, control spacebar. That's going to give me the zooming in tool. So it's command or control and spacebar. In we pop to this area here. We're in at 50%. Love the way this effect is working. Okay, let's make a few adjustment layers. We're going to use command 0, control 0. Now that we've seen the effect, we're going to go down to hue saturation. Now with hue saturation, as we did before in the first part of the video, we're going to select red. That opens up the little eyedropper tools, the little color pickers. You may have noticed the way the sliders come into play. I'm going to pick up the first one. We're going to bring it over. We're going to select the reds. So we've now targeted them, and you can see we're right on the red there. We can take it up into that area. Going to make these colors pop right out. With the eyedropper tool selected, we're going to bring it up underneath this canopy area. I'm going to click down. That's now on the yellows. You'll notice the way all the yellows have burst in. Yeah, 39, same number. Let's bring it out to the blues. So I'm going to click on the jeans, and that's now selected the blues. I'm going to drop this down slightly because I'm not so keen on what that's done to the sky. So in that area, it's pretty good. One more, down to the greens, but I don't think it is green. Now when we click on this, you'll notice the way it's changed. It's actually cyan. And if we just take a look with the cyan, it's in those seats there, so it's in those greens. It's also in the sky. So just going to play around with the slider until we find that area looks pretty good. Okay, let's just accept that. Next thing we're going to do is just finish it off. Now the finishing touch is going to be completed with the rectangular marquee tool. So just make sure under the tool options you've got the rectangular marquee tool. I've got a new selection. I'm going to bring it up just inside the image, clicking down, dragging it out over the top, just leaving a bit of a gap around the top, the bottom and the two sides into that area. That'll be good. Right, coming up we're going to go to, once again, hue saturation, this time with the lightness slider. Now if we drop it down, it darkens it down. If you bring it up to the other direction, it lightens it up. Something like that would be pretty good. Once again, click into accept it. Now look at the mask. You've got white in the inside, you've got a little black line around the outside. Using Command I or Control I, that's Command I, Control I, has now inverted it. So you've got black in the center, white around the outside, and you can see there's that white line. Filter, blur, we're going to go down to Gaussian blur. Now when Gaussian blur opens, let's just drop this right the way down. I'm going to click on the edge. You can see it is a very hard edge. Now we're going to feather it by bringing the radius up. The more you bring it up, the more you can see it soften. In fact, we're going to take it right up into that area, just backing it up a little bit. That'll do nicely. Click OK to that. You can always double click to bring it back into play. You can drop it down. You can take it up into that amount of brightness would be pretty good. Don't forget, the whole thing is still completely adjustable with all of these layers. One finishing one, whenever you've applied a filter or effect, don't be afraid to check out the levels again as an adjustment layer. Come into the center slider, and as we move the center slider this way, we can brighten it up. Moving it back this way, we're introducing more of the darker pixels, and as we move it into the darker area, I think something like this would look pretty good. Click in just to put that away. Let's zoom into the picture using Command Spacebar, Control Spacebar. Let's go right into 50%. There is the comic effect, looking really good with that. Really like this filter. As I say, when I first looked at this image, my immediate thought was delete. Then I thought, hang on a second, no, worth having a look at filters, and yeah, I think this comic effect one has worked a treat. Using Command or Control and 0, that's Command or Control and 0, we can pop out to fit on screen. We're going to bring our cursor out onto the desktop area. We're going to change it to black, so right click, select black. There it is, there's our finished image. If I just drop down, that's what we started off with, and then putting in the filter, the effect, and don't forget our gull. Job done. Just going to use the tab key to remove all those panels. Give it a try, it really does work a treat. Until the next time, it is happy imaging, and take care.